Welcome, everyone. This is a super special moment because we actually have the other half of Coach Aligned, the one and only Darlene Partin on screen, recording with her. This is the very first time that we've got to do this. Even though we catch up all the time and we talk, we've just never managed to land this little moment of recording. So if you are at the beginning, welcome. Welcome. We thought we'd start by just talking a little bit about ourselves and sharing a little bit about who we are individually and how our journeys first came together. So, Darlene, would you introduce yourself? Tell people a little bit about who you are, your role at Shoreline Church, what you're passionate about. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say I'm a church planter. My husband and I planted our church in Destin, Florida, in the area that we grew up about 20 years ago. But previously, we had been youth pastors at one church. It was the church where my husband had gotten saved, became a believer, and we were involved in youth ministry there for 18 years. Loved teenagers, never thought we'd do anything else, but we did end up back in our hometown with a church that we love and adore. And I would say that I'm very, very passionate about, number one, very passionate about my family. I have 4 kids. They range in the between 30 and 40 years old. I have 4 grandsons and a granddaughter on the way, which is super exciting because we need another girl added in the family because I have 3 boys and just one daughter. Um, what else? Oh, I would say that I'm also very passionate. I'm passionate about pastoring in my church and reaching our community and bringing Jesus to the front and center of everyday life. That's very important that that becomes a very real expression of who Jesus is in our day-to-day relationships. But because I had been a youth pastor for so long, I have a lot of what I would say are my children, my kids, my teenagers that are now pastoring churches all over the nation. And I've always had a heart for helping them and helping grow them. So when I went into life coaching, I ended up focusing on leadership, wellness, and currently in taking a course right now to get my human flourishing coaching certificate, which is super exciting because it really focuses in on the younger generation. So yeah, that's something that's just really important to me is bringing them along. But I wish I had written this down. This isn't going on like, what else is going on?
Oh, you're gorgeous. Okay, well, I'll
Oh, you know what it was actually?
what?
It was, did I say stress management? Stress management. I said leadership,
Yeah.
but stress management is probably my favorite aspect of it. And maybe because that's 40 years of ministry, almost
Yes.
40 years of ministry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for introducing us to your world a little bit. I'll share a little bit about myself. I am a pastor, first and foremost. I have been a part of a local church here in Darwin in the Northern Territory, and I am also by the sea, but I've got crocodiles. You have dolphins. I think you win. Um, you definitely win. Yeah. And yeah, I really love the Northern Territory. I really love what I get to do and where I live. I have been a part of this church probably for about 40 years and have been involved in a number of different roles on staff and as a volunteer. And professionally, I am my background social work, counselor, and I'm currently working as a mental health practitioner here in Darwin. So, my heart, though, in the context of this conversation, is really about helping women align with what is most important to them and then with God's eternal purpose. I just felt like a lot of those concepts were quite vague. And then when I discovered coaching, I realized that there's some really great ways that you can engage women in reflection and conversations. I think that the older I get, Darlene, the more aware I am of how precious time is and how precious life is. And as I reflect back over my life, I can see that I've done some seasons really, really well, and then I've done some seasons not so great. And I really hope that what I could bring to the table is helpful and encouraging. I also really believe in the role that women play in life, whether or not that's raising a family, in boardrooms, businesses, leading in church, leading churches. I just think it's got so much value, and I really love speaking into that space and have a couple of national roles where I get to do that. I've got 2 gorgeous girls, one in her late 20s studying, and my older daughter has just had a baby, and he's so ridiculously cute. So I really am leaning into that Nana season. I love that. Yeah, and I'm married, been married for nearly 40 years, I think in 2 yeah, so I think it's 38 years in next week. 38 years next week.
Wow.
And I feel like that's the biggest adventure and perhaps the grand untold story of my life, because my husband is not a believer and not a part of church life. And so that has been a real journey over the last, we've been together for 40 odd years. So that's me. There's heaps more to both of us, but I would be really curious to know whether or not you remember the first time we met, and I'd love to hear that story from your perspective, because I've got my recollections, but I'd love to hear what you remember.
This is fun. Just I'm thinking about it, and I can remember seeing you on a screen, either that or my daughter on a screen, possibly. Is that what you're talking about? Like when we met, like
Yeah,
face to
yeah,
face?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So my daughter was living in Bali, Indonesia. I'm not really sure how old she was at the time, but she left home when she was about 18. She had done a previous trip in high school and was just obsessed with Indonesia, the
Yeah.
culture, the people. She learned Indonesian her senior year. She spent more time on that than she did her grades or anything else. But she ended up in Bali. And I think she had just gotten to a breaking point where she realized, I've got to find a church home. And I might have given her, I don't know, I might have given her, I think a friend gave us an idea of a place that she could go. And so I had prepared, I'd had a conversation or an email or something, sent her to church. And then, but I'm not really sure. I just know that she was struggling. I think what I loved was that she had met you and she had mentioned you a few times. And it was interesting because we were close to the same age. We both were passionate about the church. And I had really been praying for God, bring somebody in her life, because she's such an adventurer and she's going to go do it anyway. But she was all alone there. And I just wanted her to be able to connect with somebody that would feel like home to her. I don't remember the specific circumstance, but I do know that she was just in need. She was in need of a mama for sure.
Oh my gosh, I adore that girl so much. Yeah, well, I'm glad that our recollections are similar. It would be so weird if they were
Yeah, I was like,
dissimilar.
what?
Yeah, I remember seeing Michaela, met her at church, and I just fell in love with her straight away. Just her wild hair and her wild heart was so captivating for my adventurous spirit, and we all were on a big adventure because we had moved our whole family over there, and she was really desperate at one point just to connect, so I invited her over and she came over for dinner, and she saw my big iMac, which I created all of the content, and that was how I run my business and how we schooled my daughter, and she was like, "Could I ring my mama?" And I said, "Yeah, of
Oh,
course you
wow.
can." Yeah. So she FaceTimed you, and then she introduced us on FaceTime, and so you became like my online friend.
Yes.
We were
It
online
was to
friends.
me, it was an interesting connection. actually, when I think back on it now, how good is God?
I know.
Because of our age and our even our interests
Yeah.
and maybe even our theology to a certain degree,
Yeah.
we just had this instant shared understanding
Mm.
of our lives, where we were, even though we were in different parts of the world.
Yes.
In Bali, Indonesia, of all places. Like,
It's so
it's
random.
crazy.
It's
It
so
is very random.
yeah, and really just that realization that both of us as women in the life of church were really passionate about leadership and about the leadership of the church. Yeah. And yeah, we could sit and talk for hours on
Yes.
FaceTime or the phone
Yeah.
about what was happening in our respective lives, and it was always contextualized by our love for Jesus, our love for people, and our love for the church, and that's what I found so compelling about our friendship, and also a bit frustrating. I'm like, "God, could you not have put a bestie up front and center with me?" But that's the whole point. Sometimes you sense this connection and there's something that feels really sacred about it, and it's so easy to dismiss, but you feel, "No, this is actually a thread that is connected to purpose and the wellness of my soul. This is actually a gift from God." And I need to pursue it because I remember at one point you said, "You actually stalked me a little bit." I don't know if you used that word, but you were, like, really insistent on pursuing this friendship, Tracy, and I'm so glad that you were because which we'll talk about in another conversation, there was a lot going on in your life at that same
Yeah.
time where you've got your daughter over in Bali not doing so well. So yeah, I'm just so grateful for our friendship, and I continue to love your daughter, and hopefully at the time of recording this next week, I'm heading over to Bali to speak at a conference, and I'm hoping that I get to give her at least a big hug because she's over there right now. But I often think about the strengths that you bring to me that complement my strengths. If you had to describe me in 3 words, what would you choose? And I'll share mine after I'll share mine after you share yours.
You really think I could do that in 3 words? I mean, you know me. I'm gonna try in 3 words. I wrote down a couple of words about you today. Number 1, I would say wise. You just carry such a wisdom that it's a grid. So it's always something I look forward to because I feel like we're gonna get to the heart or the meat of life or the situations we're talking about. And yeah, it's just a beautiful thing. Compassionate. So I think you're extremely compassionate. And sometimes that word can be used because I know how big you are in social justice. And I love that about you. But I really believe you're an extremely compassionate friend who is full of patience to give people the space and to hold space for people to really figure things out. That's one of the
Mm,
things I feel like you've done for me, and you did for my daughter as well. And then one of the other things, this is so kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, is that you're so goal oriented, and it challenges me because I tend to have a lot of ideas, and your goal setting is like it's everything I need. Like that's what I need from you in a friendship because I can be really passionate and have a lot of ideas. And I do believe, I know that there's leadership on my life and I'm able to use those things, but I feel like your goal, the way you set goals and you're very intentional about the goals that you set, it pulls us together as friends in a beautiful direction. And I'm just grateful for it because even the way you pursued our friendship, I'm so thankful for that.
mm,
You are just loyal.
mm.
Overall, I'm like, you are seriously one of the most well-rounded leaders that I've ever met. And I know that people that are around you, they feel that way.
Hmm.
They feel it.
Oh, gosh, that's lovely. I should ask you these questions more often and
There.
get you looking so cute on a camera. Oh my gosh. Well, it's interesting because there's actually one word that is the same that thought of for you. But the first thing I thought of was you're very generous. And I'm not just talking about generosity in terms of gifts or giving, although you're all of that, but your generosity extends to like your words. You're always very generous with your words, very generous with your life. Your life is very open, and I see that with the people that you have in your home. I always get so blessed whenever I'm with you because you're just so hospitable, and the attention to detail and the way that you think about hospitality is, for me, it really places value on the individual, on their humanity and their personality, and incredibly invitational and inclusive. The second word would be creative. Oh my lord, look at you. You're just so gorgeous. Now I have to put my earrings on and lipstick, but that's as if I have got no makeup. But, creative, you delight in creating space that really captivate and disarm people because of their beauty, the sort of creativity that just takes people's breath away. And you're like, this is what your church, like when I walk into Shoreline and hang out with the team and get to spend time with the people, this is who they are, and this is what they find really compelling about your church. And then finally, compassionate. I had the same word.
Oh, wow.
Really compassionate, so kind and so proactive about serving your community. And yes, I'm about social justice, but you are so about serving your community in a very real, practical, authentic ways. And just are always such an encourager of people's potential, the potential of people and humanity in general. You really, truly believe the best of everyone, which I love about you, and your husband's just a hoot. He's just so fun and so clever. I love being friends. I mean, I'm your best friend.
He just happened to walk in.
Wait, you're
Did he
saying that
really?
about me?
I was just saying how
You're not
awesome
gonna
you
help
are.
himself.
Well, I just heard your husband is something great. Is what
I said you're a hoot. You're a hoot. You're so funny.
oh,
What's on your T-shirt?
love your neighbor.
Love your
Love
neighbor.
your neighbor. Of course, of course. That's what you do so beautifully.
We
Thank
try.
you. We
Do I have
try.
your permission to put your face on screen? Because we're recording.
Oh yeah.
No, he's here.
This is the husband.
40 years.
Wow.
Years. Oh, there went my drink.
Yeah.
Thanks, son.
Thank you. Good night.
No,
So random.
I know. Always, though. He just happened to be walking down when you were saying that. I'll take a break.
Okay. Well, let's finish that one up. That was such a fun way to start. It's amazing looking back and realizing how God has actually really brought our paths together and how our strengths complement and overlap each other. In our next conversation, we'll go a little bit deeper and share maybe some of the defining moments of our personal
Yeah.
stories, the places and spaces that have shaped us, who we are, and why we have this passion and this commitment to. We've got the language of living aligned, but really living congruently. So stay tuned for part 2. And hey, we'd really love to hear from you. What kind of women's voices have inspired you on your own journey? Why don't you drop a comment below, and either myself or Darlene will respond. Let's start a bit of a conversation. And if you want to keep following along as we share some more, make sure that you hit subscribe so you don't miss the next part of the story. And so till next time, it's bye for now.